Good morning. We are at LaGuardia Airport, New York. It's actually over near Flushing and Queens, and then over in that direction, over toward Newark Airport. On the way is downtown Manhattan. First thing we're going to do is we're going to just fly over the airport where I first landed back in 1956 in the Tri-Pacer when I took 3 buddies off my ship and had my first passengers in an aircraft. I just got my private pilot's license. They all chipped in $25, and I figured if I have to pitch in a little more, at least I have some deferred expense of renting an aircraft, and you were allowed to do that as far as I know. So here we go, we're taking off, and we're going to fly over Flushing Meadows, which of course is no longer in operation, but they have the remains of the airport. The parcel is still empty. It's a marshy area. You'll see what it looks like. And we get here in behind, and we come back here like this, and we start rotation, bring the gear up and the flaps up. We won't engage the autopilot until we want to head out to
Tower Endeavour 5082 ready for departure runway 31 IFR to Indianapolis.
Till we want to
Endeavour
take out
5082 line up and wait.
till we want to go out to Morristown Airport. But first of all, we'll fly right over here, right over the old
Line up and wait, Endeavour 5082.
Flushing Meadows Airport. Normally we'd be looking out at the White Stone Bridge. Sometimes things don't appear here, and I'm seeing kind of indications. These towers here are part of the White Stone Bridge, which is a suspension bridge right there. So I knew that if I saw, now you're starting to see the White Stone Bridge, that I knew that if I saw the White Stone Bridge...
Bravo, Charlie, contact New York departure on 120.4. Good day.
I'll just do that.
Engaging autopilot.
Going to 120.4 Daher 7 Bravo, Charlie.
And we'll look down here at Flushing Meadows Airport. There's right there. The runway is covered with water right now.
Clear to land runway 31.
And that's the
Endeavour 5082. You are not clear to take off.
the New York Times has a little building there.
Number 3 for landing.
So anyway, normally I would fly out, but we're gonna fly to right over downtown. And look at there, we're flying right across the flight path here in the airport. So we'll come around on course. Hopefully.
Clear to land runway 31 number 3, Endeavour 5457 heavy. Clear to land runway 31 number 3, Endeavour 5.
All right, then we'll look in here and check and see if we have. We won't have to listen to that. Yeah, we turn on the autopilot right there. And now it will fly us out to Morristown Airport. And we'll look back real quickly here at the old Flushing Meadows Airport. Right there. You can see how close. It's probably a quarter of a mile away from LaGuardia. The only time I went into LaGuardia, it was at night, and it was in the company airplane. And we have to go ahead and put in our altitude here. We have the altitude of 2,900. And we'll go ahead and click that in, and we'll move this up to climb at about 1,000 feet a minute. And nav, we didn't click the nav. There we go with the nav. So hopefully, yeah, it'll climb up to 3,000. I hadn't clicked the nav on. So now we'll go back outside, and this is the East River coming down here. Right along here, we'll see the East River, and I flew up the East River. We're probably going to see We're going to see the UN building. I could see that when I went by, but the overcast was probably at 1,000 feet. We were flying along here at 600 feet and flew right around LaGuardia Airport. Flew right around here. Got to clear my throat. Never saw an aircraft off of LaGuardia. That was back in 1956. So now we're going to get on the tail, and we're going to tell you about what we see downtown. First thing we'll say is there is the UN building. I believe that's the UN building right there on the East River. All the way up here is the Brooklyn Bridge is up there on the left, down right by Wall Street, downtown. Here we're flying over the Chrysler building. Right there is in front of us, and then next is the Empire State Building, right there. Another building that is kind of interesting is a Flatiron building, and where my grandfather was working in the department store. The Siegel Cooper department store was just to the south on 5th Avenue. Flatiron building is on 6th Avenue. So Siegel Cooper was down here, possibly right there on 19th. Between 18th and 19th. And here's the Hudson River, which Sully landed in there after he took off and hit the Canada geese, and had to put it in the Hudson River right there. We're going to come across Newark Airport. We're going to see. Newark Airport on the left, and the downtown Newark is on the right in there. Jersey City is where my dad worked. His offices were in Jersey City for most of the time, and then the last 2 years we lived in Summit. We moved in 58. 58, we moved to Carmel, California. I was just getting out of the service at that time. So we're at 3,000 feet, coming up on flying to Morristown Airport. That was the closest airport to Summit. We'll see Summit as we fly out along here, and we'll go by Summit. Maybe Summit's over there. We'll get pretty close to Summit.
New York departure American 1036 Heavy is passing 800 feet, climbing 11,000 feet.
We'll look back at New York City.
American 1036 Heavy, New York departure altimeter 29.92, radar contact, continue.
Yeah, LaGuardia is still in our view. The airports pop up a longer distance away. I didn't point out the Statue of Liberty, but we'll go for the Statue of Liberty here. There we go. Yeah, right back there is the statue, just off the tail. We snuck by there. Yeah, I think right out of here is Staten Island.
Spirit Wings 1756 Heavy, New York departure altimeter 29.92, radar contact, continue.
The side, and we're going to see Summit, I think. We're going to spot Summit here before long. And maybe get closer to Morristown the actual path of flight would be further to the north, off to the right. The way I flew out, I wouldn't have flown over downtown New York. I would have gone out over in this direction to Morristown in the Piper Tri-Pacer. Didn't have an autopilot in the Piper Tri-Pacer. Let's see if we spot Summit here. Springfield, we're getting close. We're gonna get close. Mountainside. Yeah, Milburn is close. So one of these two is Summit. There's Summit right there. Yeah, we're pretty close. That's Baltusrol Golf Course right there. They played possibly. I know Jack Nicklaus, I think, won one of the U.S. Opens there, and I think Lee Trevino won one there. Summit. This I can see is the Watchung Reservation right along there. I can see Memorial Field, and then our house was right up in here, 166 Oak Ridge Avenue. Then I went to high school, was right down in here. There's a junior high and the high school, and I'm learning that the new high school was actually out along in here. It wasn't right. Yeah, it might have been in there or might have been over in there. But this is all junior high school downtown now. The golf course was Canubra Country Club is right over in there. Seba, possibly that's Seba out in there, the drug company. Geige, Sega. You know, we're getting out. Morristown's going to be over in here. We're going to go ultimately to Morristown. And we can turn off the right there. Give us a little extra speed. Yeah, we're coming up on the approach to Morristown. We make a kind of a right. It's not quite a 180, maybe a 120 turn to the right and get on the final approach into Morristown. And then we can drop down also. Drop down to 1,800 feet. And we'll go ahead and drop this down. That's 1,800 vertical speed. Drop down to 1,500. We'll start slowing down. And put this back on. And watch us come around to land in Morristown. You can also check on this chart right here. It will show us a little more clearly what we're doing, where we took off from. LaGuardia, went over Manhattan, and out to past Summit, right over Summit. Now we're making a turn back around. We're going to land on runway 05 at Morristown. We should be leveling off. Let's see if our little bug is coming down. It should be coming down here shortly to land. Oh, we have to put it on approach. There we go. good that I looked, because if we don't click approach, go off a nav to approach, it won't grab onto the glide slope. Yeah, we got it down to 140. That's a good speed. Now we're on final, and we look straight ahead, and we can see the airport runway right out there in the distance. Right in here, we fly past where Phil, New Vernon, my best friend, lived out here in New Vernon. He has passed away, but I visited that house. It was his wife's parents' home. Was out there. Her father worked for Bill Menon at the Menon Company. They had the Menon products. They had aftershave, lotion, various things. Toiletries, I guess you'd call it. Bill Menon there were two brothers. Bill had a Cessna 310 that he kept it out here. It was just a great looking airplane back in the 50s. Had the fuel tanks were tip tanks. They had tuna shaped tip tanks on that old 310. Back then it was a new 310. Okay, let's see how we're doing on our approach. We're on the glide slope, as you can see here. The magenta diamond is right there on the center line. We're on the center line of the runway, and we're on the glide slope, and this is all green up in here. So now we have to get the flaps down and the wheels down. We're a little late on that. We can come back on the power because we've really got to slow down. And we're going to go back outside, get on the tail. And we'll get it down to about 80 miles an hour. Go ahead and turn off the autopilot. Full flap. Here we go. Sorry about the airplane on the runway, but we came in unannounced, and again we are a simulator, so we can bend the rules. Normally you get a clearance to land, you get a clearance to taxi. Here we'll show you the clearance to taxi, and we'll hold right here. And we'll go back to communicating. First they'll tell us about Philadelphia. They'll catch up to where we were. Oh, here, to Morristown ground. So we just go taxi to parking.
Morristown ground, Daher 527 Bravo Charlie, taxi to parking. Daher 527 Bravo Charlie, taxi to general aviation parking using taxiway Delta Cross runway 31 Alpha.
And we'll acknowledge that we got that.
Taxiing to general aviation parking via taxiway Delta Cross runway 31 Alpha Daher 7 Bravo Charlie.
Sometimes they send out, rarely for a small airplane, but they'd send out a vehicle for you to follow it, say follow me. I don't think they do that anymore. We'll just see if it takes us to parking. Normally I turn in right there. Actually, when I flew in the A-26 with my friend Jack Berg, this is where we came. The parking was right over in here. Yeah, look at this, where they're going. This is kind of fun. I haven't been over here. But this is probably close to where the parking was. You can see that some of the graphics, some of the trees and so forth, the computer does some of this. We don't want to hit the bus. So the parking would have been over in here. I've never been over in here. This is kind of fun. This could be where general aviation. I see an airplane over here. So we'll see what happens. I don't see any. Yeah, I see one person here. Right over here to the right. Let's see if he. We'll just park right over here. There we go. And we'll look around here. We'll have to push this back so we're all lined up. I didn't stop soon enough. So that's your flight. The flight I took back in 1956 in a tri-pacer. I flew a little bit north and west, mostly north of where we flew. If you're looking on the chart, I flew from LaGuardia, and I came up around this way. Whereas you can see, we went straight over Manhattan and came out here to shoot the approach on 05. I could have landed on 05 depending on which way the wind direction was, but we would have come in, blown downwind, made a right base, and turned final and land back on runway 05. Or we could have landed in the opposite direction. 5 and 18 is 23, so we would have, the opposite way would have been on runway 23, right there. I can't remember what runway I landed on. So anyway, my folks picked me up. I got dropped off. My buddy flew me down in the A-26, and they dropped me off. We watched them fly away over the trees. I don't know whether he was dragging it or whether he needed more runway, but it was exciting to watch him depart. Never saw him again. I tried to get a hold of him when I first was making these movies. Both his half-brother, who was a closer friend of mine, Demi Allen, and Jack Berg, a half-brother, both had passed on. And I did talk to Demi Allen's son, who was up in Seattle I believe he was with a drug company. State-of-the-art, new age stuff with the drugs and so forth. So he was doing good. I think he was an attorney, and his name was also Demi Allen. Yeah. It's fun to make that connection. Okay, that's all I know. Take care. Bye-bye.